Hello, and welcome to Association Transformation, our weekly conversation aimed at amplifying and advancing the impact of nonprofit organizations.
Ooh,
Welcome
new
back.
words, new words.
Oh, you like my new
I
SAT words, amplify and evolution
I
and
love that. I love that. That was good. Did you? How long have you spent working on that?
oh, stop. If you haven't been able to tell everyone by his early interruption, we don't have a guest today. Andrew and I are going to chat just the two of us through what I consider a very important topic. He probably doesn't care, but I I take it very seriously and actually have built my consulting career around it these last 12 months is virtual strategic planning. Not only
Yes.
the importance of it, but the shift to this new format, engagement in this crazy environment, and what all that means and the potential of it. So it's just Andrew and I today. So bear with me. Just put yourself in my shoes
I
and sympathize.
I don't know why. I don't know why. Do you know what? I don't know why you're so mean to me sometimes. Because honestly, look, I take strategic planning very seriously. I have also built my consultancy around strategic planning, and then in the last 12 months, I've sort of destroyed it around that vehicle as well. But yeah, no, I think it's good that we have this conversation because, I mean, when people were talking about lockdown and COVID and the pandemic and everything we've gone through, gosh, I can't even believe I'm saying these words for nearly a year. When we speak, it was a big chunk of both our businesses potentially were about to just disappear. And I don't think probably this time next year, but this time last year, because we didn't know, nobody knew how long this was going to go on for. I don't suppose I personally I didn't really plan properly. I don't think we could plan properly, but I don't think I really gave it enough thought as to what impact this was going to have on our business. The fact that we were no longer able to convene and have those physical round tables, where you can get that energy and get that buzz going and everything. So, I think it's good that we're taking the opportunity to talk, but I just wish we'd spoken about it, 6 months ago.
Well, yes, we've all been reacting as much as we want to pretend we strategically pivoted to be everything
Yeah.
to everyone in this new space. Let's be honest. We were all reacting, we were all behind the eight ball and no one could make any realistic predictions. But
No.
I'm one of those consultants. I didn't even really like strategic planning the way most people did it before COVID. I thought
You
they
obviously you'd
approached
never
it.
come into one of my sessions,
Oh,
obviously,
sorry.
because
You're right. You're right. You're right. But I felt most people it was formulaic, it was stiff, it was it was filling in a template. And I know when I sat around that table as an executive, as a staff person, I didn't like how consultants handled it. They often just showed up for the facilitation and then disappeared, and staff were left to
wow,
reconcile these brainstorming sessions that the boards were allowed to have without many guardrails. And
wow.
so I built my consultancy on a strategic planning methodology that was very different. And it was disrupted by COVID. But I think, going online, it forced me as a consultant to stretch myself, to be different, to engage differently. And I kind of like the good things that have come out of it. And I want to make sure I institute them in strategic planning,
Yeah.
even when it returns to a post-COVID place.
But what was the methodology to begin with then? You say you built your consultancy around a methodology. You know, paint a picture for me before, pre-COVID, what was that methodology? You walked in a room, facilitated discussion, and then left it to the staff to get on with. Is that what I've heard?
No, that's exactly what I didn't want to do. I built my consultancy on being the advisor and consultant that I wish I had had as a staff person.
Yeah.
And that
Hmm.
that was someone who would handle strategic planning with a membership focus, but a staff mindset. So, you're not going in there allowing the board to decide they want to cure cancer and solve world peace. They have to stay
Mm,
within their
hmm, hmm.
jurisdiction. I built my consultancy and my strategic planning approach on actionable
Yep.
strategies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean they're any less inspirational. It doesn't mean that they're any more targeted, but they're actionable
Yeah.
for the staff to put into place. And I think through virtual strategic planning, I've found the importance of consensus building. It's not just having people in a room chatting about facts and brainstorming ideas. It's building consensus and prioritizing those ideas that are determined, because we're all on tighter budgets. Staff are stretched more. We're trying
Mm.
to do hybrid events. We're trying to be everything to everyone. And so creating a strategic plan at this point in time, in my mind, is more important than ever. But
Mm.
at the same time, the resources available for the implementation may be thinner than ever, maybe less than ever. And so it needs to be put together in a purposeful way, built on consensus, prioritized by the board, and given real attention in the COVID, in the post-COVID world. But the virtual platform is just it just requires a different type of conversation.
Yeah, because actually, what you've just described, if you take away the virtual platform, it's just exactly the same as what it should be anyway, isn't it? What that process, that methodology you described, regardless of whether I'm sat at a computer screen or around a board table, um, shouldn't we be just doing that anyway?
But yeah, but let's be honest. I mean, bringing a board online has to be different, and it puts the onus on the staff, puts the onus on the consultant to do more pre-work, to not only educate them on the platform, make sure that they are comfortable with the technology. I think it means you have to give them material in advance. I don't know about you, but I do not make my clients or my boards sit through anything longer than I would be willing to sit through. And I have a
What?
pretty short attention span.
Yeah, no, I know, 20 minutes tops. I mean,
Oh,
I have to do
stop.
strategic plans over like 7 weeks of work.
Right, right. I mean, what you may have done in a boardroom at a resort
Yeah.
over a day and a
Mm-hmm.
half,
Mm-hmm.
I now break up over a series of what I call strategic sprints. I don't ask my boards to sit for any longer than 90 to 120 minutes in
Yeah.
each
Yeah.
stint,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's you lose people.
Well, you can't. There's no natural other than leaving the computer screen. There's no break. You can't as a team, as a group. That whole piece is missing where you can go and have a cup of tea together, or you can do some. I'm going to say it's some hideous team building thing that some
God.
consultant is. No, no, seriously. I mean, I do the Lego serious play. When
Yeah.
so just to get people thinking about strat planning, strategy in kind of that multifaceted 3D sort of perspective, rather than simply looking at it as a top down or bottom up approach or whatever, or something that's thrust upon them. And so, you break people into groups and they're doing something that's not the content of the strat plan; it's the skills of the strategy development and implementation. I've really struggled. I mean, I've done a few. Well, I think I've done in the last 12 months. Probably done about four strategic plans, virtually. One of which, of course, is the one that you facilitated for the IAL. So
Oh,
when
so
you
you didn't do
facilitated
that one.
that,
I did that one.
you did that one, but I
Okay.
participated. I think you'll find I did participate actively. Sat building Lego all while,
Yeah.
while you
But
were
it
talking.
must have been really interesting to have the executive director
Well, it
perspective.
means, yeah, because it means I've seen it from both sides in the last 12 months. I've seen it as somebody who's facilitating it online, and I've also participated as a delegate, as it were. And do you know, I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't know if it's the way my mind works, but I don't actually. Other than that piece where you build the team ethos, you get them working together, or there's the social element, like I say, where they break bread or go and have a beer or whatever. I actually don't find it that. I don't find it that difficult or that different to facilitate it online.
You know, I think there are so many benefits to it being online, and we've all poo-pooed the online. We're all Zoom exhausted.
Mm,
And
mm,
so the virtual aspect, the virtual concept has become a negative
Yeah.
in a lot of people's mind. And I think
Yeah.
that's short-sighted because there are benefits and there are silver linings to this format that
Mm.
I think allow certain aspects of strategic planning to be more intentional. To, if you do it the way I do and you have breaks in between, whether it be a week apart or 2 weeks
Yep.
apart,
Yep.
it gives you opportunities to ask the board to think about things, to engage in, some homework, if you will. But I actually had the opportunity to do 2 in-person strategic plans in addition to my virtual clients. I had
Right.
2 in-person strategic plans over the last 4 months.
Hmm.
And even in person isn't the same anymore. You're in person, but you're apart. You're each at your own individual table. You're
Oh
wearing a
God.
mask. You don't shake hands. You don't hug. You don't get in groups close
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
talk about things.
Hmm.
It was almost more disjointed than virtual
Aye. Right. Yeah.
because of the physical distancing and the I think the remaining fear that existed in people's
Yeah.
proximity.
Yeah.
It was not the good old days of being back in person.
No, no, and I can imagine actually. Yeah, I can. Whereas virtual is wholly different. I can imagine that right now the physical environment is kind of weirdly different and
Yeah.
and uncomfortably so. Actually, more
Yeah,
so
you're
than
together but apart. I mean, even
yeah,
at the coffee
yeah,
breaks, people were, waiting in line for the coffee breaks. They weren't even standing together chit-chatting.
yeah. It feels more unnatural than actually just us
Right.
having a video call like this. Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I think, but then I think I'm hoping. So, in the UK, this, as we're recording this, in fact, it was yesterday, the UK's announced its sort of escape plan, if you like. Apparently, we're all going to be free by June the 21st. And
Ooh.
yeah, yeah, I believe it did. I don't know if he actually said June 21st this
I was
year.
gonna, I was gonna, well, even that, let's see, March, April, May.
May,
I mean, that's still
yes.
over 4 months away.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
Hmm.
goodness.
But I hope that when we get to the other side, I, I absolutely want us to have those opportunities to come back together, of course. And I think there is a huge amount of value, particularly when you combine it. Often I use strategic planning as the vehicle for also team building, creating the board into a high performing team. So
Mhm.
it's a nice vehicle without it's you don't need to then focus on the individuals or the collective. You can talk about the strategic plan and then you can talk about the board and question whether the board is fit for purpose to be able to fulfill the objectives of the plan, just as you would question the resources and the staffing and the budgets, etc., that you have internally. So I
Mhm.
find it as a really good vehicle for doing that when you want to create that team ethos. So in a physical environment, that is easier because you can do all the breakout stuff, you can have the social elements. But actually, I hope we don't lose the virtual as well because, we've been lucky enough to, well, look, if we take the IAL as an example, when you facilitated that process for us, we were able to benefit from your expertise, even though you live in the other side of the Atlantic from us. And I worry that if that's an example of the expertise that we can get into the room, as it were, through the beauty of virtual strat planning. Well, it opens up. Imagine all the expertise you could actually get on your board. You
Right,
don't
right.
have to be unless you're specifically a regional entity. Perhaps you're state specific or you're I don't know, like, we've done a couple of jobs for specific state, or associations in specific states in the US, and I understand. All right, well, you want people to only sort of come from that region, potentially, but actually, gosh, if you can bring externals from all over the world potentially
Right.
and contribute to your not your governance, part of which is your strat planning. I mean, the opportunities are vast,
Well, and I think what
vast.
strat planning is experiencing some of the same things that general meeting planning are going through, where you go online
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
may have a different audience. You'll have a larger audience because of the reduction of cost and time and travel
yeah,
expense.
yeah.
You
Hmm.
may have a different audience, people who would not have participated before. And in my mind, I think even strategic planning moves to a place of hybrid engagement.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
working with a couple clients now where we are going to kick off online.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are going to culminate later in the year, hopefully when
Mm-hmm.
everything's safer, with a consensus building and affirmational session where we reaffirm what we've developed over the course of a series of virtual sessions.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that virtual opportunity. I think you could flip that and even start in person with the team building piece, kind of invest in the culture and invest in the relationships, and then end
Mm-hmm.
online.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways to handle it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to see
Mm-hmm.
that so many boards have now been forced into a virtual environment, whether it be for their board meetings, for their updates, for strategic planning. They have that channel is available to them, and it can be utilized in a strategic way, either for planning, for governance, for
Yeah.
organizational management, whatever it is. and
Yeah.
and that's an important option for me as a consultant to present. But what
Yes.
I don't want to just talk about what we've done this whole time. I mean, I just want people to know not to be afraid of virtual strategic planning. It doesn't have to be the horror show that you may have heard about. I mean, yes, mistakes are happening out there. People are learning from those mistakes. I've heard war stories and disastrous situations from other
Yeah, that's
consultants
true.
that
That's true. But sorry to interrupt you. But actually, what I've found is that take a step back. I've actually found more boards willing to or wanting to engage in strategic planning full stop in the last 12 months. Never
yeah,
mind virtual or in the room. I mean, the very fact that they are recognized that, if nothing else, the last 12 months really highlighted a deficiency in their leadership of their organizations because
yeah,
so many have sort of realized, oh, we don't have a vision of what this organization is at the strategic level.
right,
We understand what our purpose is, but we don't understand how we're going to fulfill it, how we're going to meet
right.
it. So actually, you are getting, I find, a lot more boards are wanting, and we've known they've needed to engage, but now they want to engage, and that is in itself heartening for me because, as you know, when I harp on about the governance stuff, it's fundamental to their governance role.
Yeah.
And
Well, and you usually take kind of the board perspective. I kind of look at it from the executive perspective, and I've known a lot of executives who have been happy to go years without
yeah,
strategic plans, and they
yeah,
almost appreciated the I think they considered it freedom.
freedom, yeah,
Um,
freedom. Hmm.
and uh, and now whether you call it a strategic plan or a recovery plan, or I don't care what you call it, you need a roadmap to your
Yeah,
desired future.
yeah,
And if you're waiting for your board to tap you on the shoulder as a association executive and say, "Hey, we think we should have a strategic plan," then there's something else going wrong.
yeah,
You need to be advancing this conversation, and I think with more limited resources, more diverse expectations from your membership,
hmm,
executives should want strategic plans at this point more than ever, to
hmm,
simply prioritize, to
yeah,
simply give them clear guidance on where they should focus their efforts and their resources, because things are going to become, I'm not saying they're going to get better before they're not going to get worse before they get better, but I think associations are being pulled in more and more directions.
Well, and they were anyway. I mean, they weren't they? I mean, they would. That was happening regardless. In the last few years, we've seen, more and more Although, well, actually, this then I think points to a broader strategic question. And in fact, one of my clients we were discussing quite recently, how I get frustrated when organizations, associations try to be everything to everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And invariably, they're going to fail miserably because you can't be everything to everybody. Um, and I think that's partly one of the reasons associations feel like they're being pulled in every direction, is they're trying to actually provide resource in every direction. I
Yeah.
would much rather see it. I would much rather see as part of the strategic conversation, discussions around collaboration and partnership, and as part of the roadmap, understanding who else is out there, so that we don't need to replicate the wheel. We can just do what we
Right.
do, the single thing, even if it's just the one thing that we do and
Yeah.
it's amazing, and no one else can go anywhere else for it except us, then let's be that to people, but then work with our partners and our colleagues and our collaborators, etc., to add value to our members. But Yeah, I think it was happening anyway. As you know, that issue aside, I think anyway associations were starting to feel um, the pressure, economic pressures, financial pressures, social pressures, etc. And as you say, over here, and I suspect now in fact, I know in the US now that. Biden has recommitted the US to the Paris Agreement, that more and more discussion is going to start happening around green jobs, sustainable development, social focus, social justice. Associations are going to, regardless of what their core member profession is, they are going to start to see increased demands on the services they provide, on the knowledge that they exchange, etc. So I think all I'm doing here is reinforcing the message that
Is
you
that
say.
your long way of saying that you agree with me? Is that your?
No, 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 no.
Oh.
Trust me. The way I agree with you. Whatever, whatever. Right,
That's how you agree with
whatever.
me. Dismissing,
I've
dismissing. I
I've
get it.
listened. I listened intently to you for basically 20 minutes, and I'm going to say one thing, and you're like, "Oh, interrupt, interrupt." Honestly, right. Anyway, strategic planning. It's good.
Wow.
Do some.
There's the Andrew Chamberlain endorsement for strategic planning. Well, we wanted to have this conversation specific to virtual strategic planning. And
Yes.
I've recently become a certified virtual facilitator. So I think I'm more and more invested in the environment, in the virtual environment, and what it can do. Like, to your point, bringing people together from
Yep.
faraway lands who may not have
Mm-hmm.
otherwise participated,
Mm-hmm.
but creating an environment that is highly capable of collaboration and consensus
Mm-hmm.
and thoughtful, intentional strategic planning. So we're both saying the same thing,
Of
and
course we are, because we see it the same. Except, I can articulate it sometimes better than you. That's all.
wow, wow.
Oh, are you
Oh
speechless?
my
Are
gosh.
you speechless? Have I actually made you
It's the
speechless?
bullying. It's just the bullying
Oh,
that's
don't call me
ongoing.
that. Don't call me bullying, and do not say it's ongoing. Otherwise, we'll have people writing in our
The
our two
hashtag save
listeners.
Elisa. Is this
Yeah,
hashtag
yeah,
save
yeah.
Elisa?
Yeah, our two listeners will write in and complain about me. So
I
don't be
know.
doing that. No.
My dad is going to call you.
My mom might call me. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm glad we did have this conversation. I think we should probably look ahead and bring some people together who have participated, maybe even board members who've
Yeah.
participated in, different types of strategic planning and have that discussion as to best practices across
Yeah.
multiple
Mm-hmm.
formats.
Because I think,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
on the multiple formats piece, I think what's interesting is you absolutely, it just came to me. I thought, yeah, we are all Zoom fatigued, we are all fed up of Zoom. But actually, when you think about what the tech was like, just when you started out in BPS, what was that, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
The tech was nowhere near as good as it is now, and it's only going to get technology is only going to make the virtual environment more sophisticated. And so I really don't want people to turn away from it. I want them to listen to what you're saying, and recognize that actually the value of it is only going to ever increase, because the technology is going to just become ever and ever more important part of it, and it's
Yeah.
going to be just
Yeah.
be easier to use.
But
um,
whether it's you or people do need consultants who know what they're doing.
it's only me or
And
you. It's only one of us, right? We're the only ones.
that's it. It's just us. But no, whatever form it comes in, whatever, just
Yeah.
turn towards strategic planning, be open to it, embrace these new technologies, these new formats, be proactive with it, with your board, and
Yeah.
find someone who understands your mission, understands the format, and can really harness the benefits of a virtual
Yeah.
environment,
Yeah.
and embrace strategic planning, recovery planning, whatever you want to call it in 2021. It's urgently needed in the association space, maybe more so than ever before. So,
Absolutely.
well, I'm glad we did this. Thanks for chatting strategic planning with me. I hope you'll join me next time.
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna think about it.
Oh, well, to everyone else, all two listeners, to everyone else, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if there's a subject you'd like us to tackle, or you'd like to join us on the podcast, you can tweet us at Association Transformation, and we'll draw upon our network and pull together a podcast worth listening to help support nonprofit and mission-driven associations. Wherever you find your podcast, we hope you will look up Association Transformation. I think we're on every major platform at this point, so you can find us where you're most comfortable, and be sure to make us your favorite. Until next time, don't bully people. Be open
enough,
and
enough,
nice.
right? Enough, honestly. Or we're not publishing this one, right?
Stay well and put your members and mission first.
Association Transformation is brought to you in partnership between Consult Strategy and Brewer Pratt Solutions in support of the Institute of Association Leadership.